Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video we are going to be installing the TipTap Editor. So to get started with, let's use Composer to install this. Let's head to the terminal. So to use this we need to actually go to the docs and create a custom theme. So let's just create a theme. And what does it say here? We need to make sure we obviously, I'm going to close down some terminal windows. And let's run build. Let's go back to the plugin. And then we need to head into our resources where this should now be inside CSS Filament, the opportunity to actually install this plugin. So it should be inside dash 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 dash. And add this to our tailwind. So we could, for example, go by this example here and then just we need to add this to our post-processing plugin. And then let's rebuild our custom theme. And then let's see if this works. So let's head into our product resource and let's go and select the TipTap. Let's add these configurations here. And let's just have a default profile. So that should be fine like this. With the tools, let's make sure that we don't actually need to specify that, I believe, in this case. These probably wouldn't be relevant either. And there we go. We now got TipTap installed. So with that installed, let's look at how we can use some of its features. So TipTap has a lot more features than the built-in editor. You can, for example, go ahead and add in a video, for example. You can go in and add a checklist. So since we already have a products page, let's go in to a post page. Let's go in and edit here as well. So I think we can just copy and paste this. That should be sufficient. Let's set into the post resource. And let's go ahead and essentially work on some of the code here. So I'll minimize this terminal. We don't need that anymore for now. Let's hit refresh. Perfect. So with Filament 3 and TipTap Editor, you can create a custom block. This is the brand new feature added in the newest version. So if you're already using the TipTap Editor, you may need to make sure you're upgrading to the latest version because this is a new feature. You may not be able to find it here. So there's a section here on custom blocks. So you can see that there's 3 components you need to create a block. There's a block class that extends the tip block blocks and defines the settings for that block, a preview blade file, and a rendered file, which is the one that will be rendered in the content. So in this example, he uses the Batman block. You can create static blocks as well, and then there's the preview file. And yeah, so we will get started with trying to use that. So to get started with, let's create something called blocks, and we just want to render something very simple in here, not anything fancy, anything like that at first. You can pretty much render anything in here. So let's just render, let's say, a hello world block as a starter. You may want to create other custom blocks, but this is a really convenient way to actually create some very neat management. Also notice that we actually need to create one that's called rendered, and we also need to create a folder called previews. So let's create one of each. You could, for example, add FAQ and all that later on as well. So let's create one in here for rendered, and let's make sure we actually delete this and create a folder instead. Perfect. So you could even have live wire components inside here. Later we're going to be using that to create custom sections such as an FAQ section or something like that. But for now, let's just use the example bit here in the preview to see how that looks like. And actually, we don't even want to have the dynamic content so far because we don't have any to work with. So we will just use the styling here and then call this hello world block. And then inside the rendered one, we will add in some text here with a BG blue 500 saying hello world. And then the last thing we also need to make sure we have is a block class, which is something we also need to create. So let's create the block class now. I'm gonna call this blocks. I'm gonna add it here as a hello world. And then I'm gonna namespace this as inside the app folder. So we can basically copy and paste this, but use the word blocks instead. Perfect. And then we will just call this, we just call the file hello world, so we will just rename it here. And you could actually pass through the content like that as with a Batman block. So I don't know why I can't talk today. So we could try to see if that would work. This is the first time I'm using this as well. So we will just be displaying the name in here for now and just leave that out as it is. And then let's make sure we have the text input import class, import select option, and outside of that, when we set up the TipTap editor, we need to say configure using. So in here, let's head in now and go to the post resource. And we also need to make sure we register this as a service provider. So let's head down here to providers and see if this will work in the register method. And we will just end up having block called hello world class. So we should be able to insert this block and we have a hello world block. So now if we go ahead and say test is published and is featured, let's put this under the Laravel category, and let's also upload an image. And we have an array to string conversion issue, which is caused by the fact, I believe, that inside the post resource, we are creating this as a content. So where is this issue coming from? Let's just double check. So in order to store this, we need to store this as JSON as well. So we need to actually go ahead and say public cast content as an array. Oh, we already have that slug, so we will try to see if that will work without it. And now let's also go ahead and test this one out. So this is the one we called one with the Laravel tag. So let's remove is featured from these and let's go to Filament CMS. And obviously this will be an issue because we are now having to render this in JSON. So this function here we will have to redo along with the function rendering the text. So with the TipTap editor you can also use JSON. As simple as this. So for now we will go ahead to the home page where we have this postcard component. And in here we will essentially stop displaying text for now, just as a temporary measure while we work with that. We will go in here and we will again have this issue inside the post page. So we have the content here. So to render the content, we just need to render it as HTML. As you can see, we now have this block here, which is basically created in here through the blocks part. So we have the hello world, we have the previews. So this is basically how we can do this without any big problem. Obviously, we may want to display this differently, but you can see we can also, underneath here, for example, insert, let's say, a grid builder if we want to. We can say one, and then we can say one here. Let's save that. So now, as you can see in here, we have this Filament TipTap grid builder. And obviously this may not work depending on the styling you have chosen to go with. Like in this case where you can clearly see that we have